Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Push with Nick and KP. We are back once again to continue our WrestleMania series. This time we are working on WrestleMania 24, which took place in Orlando, Florida. And how about that clarity? We hit that on the end of WrestleMania 23. This is the first time we get HD. So yeah, looked really good. So I know the images themselves being uploaded will look much better now as well. But with the attendance here at 74,635 in the Sunshine State, let's go ahead and get right into it. The opening contest of WrestleMania 24 is JBL going up against Finlay with, of course, Hornswoggle in a Belfast Brawl. KP doesn't the guys here don't really scream opening contests, but I thought this one worked pretty well. How did you enjoy this one?
Yeah, I don't think it's your normal, classic 101 start off the show sort of matchup here, I guess it's fair to say. But honestly, in terms of what it was quite enjoyable for sure. I definitely liked this one. It was fun. And yeah, it was a nice way to kick off and open the show. We had in this Belfast Brawl quite a lot going on. There were loads of weapons used throughout, including the likes of kendo sticks, steel steps, trash can lids, table, shillelaghs. Like, there was all sorts of stuff going down here throughout this matchup, which was quite the fun way to get things going. Um, we see Finlay at one point dive to ringside and actually gets hit like square in the head with a trash can lid. That was probably my preferred spot of the contest. To be fair, really enjoyed that one. We see Hornswoggle getting involved. On a few moments. He was there just like having his say sort of thing, being quite a big part of the build up to this contest as well. So obviously fitting with that sort of build. But yeah, generally speaking, decent match. Stipulation was fun. I wouldn't say it was anything amazing, but it was a nice just engaging, entertaining way to kick things off. You know what I mean? We started off with obviously these two just going at it, but in the end, we do get into a position where JBL gets thrown through a table, and normally if somebody gets put through a table, they tend to lose the match pretty much straight away afterwards. JBL kicks out at 2 after getting sent through the table in the corner. And then, literally moments later, I'm talking like probably 30, 40 seconds, JBL takes out the knees of Finlay with a kendo stick because Finlay's looking to use the steel steps. He's got them sort of like above his head, looking to use them on JBL. And yeah, gets taken down by the knees. And JBL then hits a clothesline from hell in order to win the match. So I think maybe my main critique is just the way that I don't know, the table didn't really have too much of an effect on JBL towards those late stages. You've already gone through a pretty grueling, probably about 10 minutes or so prior to that segment, and yeah, then you get put through a table, and a minute later you've won the match. So yeah, quite crazy, and it didn't take away from the fact that it was a fun contest, but I thought that maybe did diminish the finish a little bit in my perspective. But yeah, I gave this one a 7 out of 10. I liked it. I thought it was fun. Definitely entertaining and a pretty cool way to kick things off for sure. Belfast Brawl, yeah, not too bad to be honest. What did you make of this one, Nick? Obviously, with terms of the match itself, all the different sort of like carnage occasions that took place throughout the matchup, and just generally speaking, what did you make of that finish as well? Do you agree with me, or am I being too hypercritical there?
No, I do agree with you to an extent. I think, as you alluded to, most of these or both these guys have really been through it at that point. So, yeah, I get where you're coming from for sure. I think both of these guys endured quite a bit throughout. So, yeah, just I guess had that adrenaline going for him, I guess. But in terms of the storyline, this is one of those storylines that I vaguely remember, but then as soon as they start talking about it, I quickly, all the details start coming back quite quickly. One of those stories you really try to forget, but in the end, you just can't quite do it. Of course, the Hornswoggle being an illegitimate son angle. Um, fittingly enough, for the match type, though, the brawl starts before the match even starts, and a couple of brawlers in that of JBL and Finley. This one was really hard hitting, and already kind of mentioned with the table spot there at the end. Both guys take some pretty nasty bumps, and then Hornswoggle takes a few bumps as well. So I think for me, this, like I kind of alluded to from the beginning, this match was better than I thought it would. Had any right to be, and surprisingly, a nice way to open up the show. You could, of course, argue that Finley winning would have been a better, a way to start kickstart the crowd, to kick off the show. But a fun fight nonetheless. And yeah, I thought this uh, just kind of worked. Pretty fast pace considering the two guys involved as well. So I give this one a rating of 6.5 out of 10. Not the best, but certainly not the worst, and a lot better than I thought it was going to be. So with that, let's go ahead and get into the next match, which is the Money in the Bank ladder match. Last year we mentioned it had 8, and previous years it had 6. So this year, how about we split the difference? 7 guys in this one, featuring John Morrison, who's one half of the tag team champions, Carlito, Shelton Benjamin, CM Punk, Mr. Kennedy, MVP, who is the current U.S. champion, and Y2J Chris Jericho. The last entry there, Chris Jericho, was a last minute replacement, as Jeff Hardy was originally scheduled for this contest and was originally scheduled to win. But had a wellness violation, which would obviously be the first of many. But yeah, so Chris Jericho, last minute addition there, obviously probably obvious because you have a couple of 3 champions in the match. So yeah, a lot of returns here though. So KP, Money in the Bank ladder match. How did you enjoy this one's comparatively speaking to prior years? And yeah, what were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, this one was great. It was extremely, extremely fun. So many cool spots throughout this matchup, and just generally just really enjoyable to watch. Like I couldn't really take my eyes off it for the most part, and I just thought it really just went through extremely nicely. There was no part of the matchup where I was like, "Oh, this is dragging," or like oh, like this isn't like a bit that I'm not really enjoying. It just felt like it was just really smooth sailing throughout the entire contest. Obviously, it's a ladder match. You got your higher risk stuff, but for the majority of it, for like 99.9% of it, it just was just really, really, really fun. I think when it comes to the spots here, I think I mentioned in previous matches, Shelton Benjamin, he always has these moments, right? And he's always so much fun to watch in these contests. If you see Shelton Benjamin in a ladder match, you know you're going to have a good time. There's going to be a pretty sweet spot throughout the contest, and he provided that again. He fell from a ladder to a ladder at ringside, which was just awesome. He was sort of like pushed off as he was like trying to make the climb. And yeah, just takes a really big tumble and obviously goes crashing through the ladder. Yeah, really cool spot that. We see Morrison hitting a moonsault with a ladder really early in the match, probably only like a good 2-3 minutes in, really. But yeah, literally has the ladder just like against his chest, does a moonsault. It's a really cool spot as well. Already mentioned Shelton Benjamin, but he's back in the conversation again. He would hit a sunset flip powerbomb at one point off of a ladder, which was pretty sick. And then you got Matt Hardy coming back after 5 months in order to twist a Fate MVP off of the ladder, and sort of like re-sparking that sort of feud between the two of them, which made for a very cool spot as well, cool moment for sure. But yeah, really entertaining. Had so much to take in this matchup. And yeah, I think it probably was my favorite of the Money in the Bank ladder matches that they've done so far for these WrestleMania series of contests. We see in the end it would be CM Punk winning this one, and CM Punk sort of tangles Chris Jericho in it was like a tree of woe style position on the ladder before then climbing up to the top of the ladder and grabbing the said briefcase. So yeah, it was really cool matchup. Really enjoyed this one. If this had been on the opener, then obviously that it would have been perfect spot there. But generally speaking, not really going to criticize that too much because they did that last year, and I guess they don't want to do the same thing every single year. So I get it; it makes sense. But yeah, I get this one a 9.5 out of 10. Just absolutely loved it. Thought it was brilliant from start to finish. High tempo, high energy, high octane, high risk. Just high thoughts about it. So yeah, everything was just great. It just seemed to just tick all the boxes really for me in this one. So yeah, CM Punk winning was a cool moment as well. Starting off a career that we can look back on now and know that this is probably his biggest win up until this point. But yeah, it was huge for him, and he goes on to obviously do a lot with his career. Yeah, Nick, what did you make of this one, comparatively speaking to those of the previous ladder matches that we've had? And generally, just your enjoyment levels of this contest. There was so much to take in, but it was so much fun as well. And that Matt Hardy, coming back moment, the return, the crowd popped crazy for it as well, and it was quite cool of a moment. To be fair, what did you make of it all?
Yeah, it's cool for the two of us that we agree on so many things, but sometimes, it would be nice to disagree. However, this is not one of those cases. It is one of the best matches of the night. This is pretty big card and some pretty stiff competition. But from my least favorite Money in the Bank match at 23 to my favorite, Money in the Bank ladder match is this one. Crazy, I guess, just makes the difference between eight guys dropping it down to seven, maybe. I'm not sure. But there was just enough in here to make it feel nonstop, but then also somehow kind of paint that fine line there between it being overbooked. Yeah, the Matt Hardy spot was great. Chris Jericho spot was great. Everyone kind of got theirs, and both got theirs, but also were on the receiving end of a few absolutely brutal spots. No one comes out of this match unscathed. So, but yeah, this was just a great all around contest. I really have no complaints for this one. Had a little bit of everything: drama, action, brutal spots, everything you come to expect from a Money in the Bank ladder match. These ladder matches always hold a very special place in my heart. And, they're so good. Maybe they should get their own PLE one day, but who knows? With that, let's go ahead and get into the next match, which has Batista going up against Umaga. Batista continuing just to get absolutely booed quite a bit throughout this. So I find that interesting. I don't know because he was cheered, coming out of Evolution, and feels like something changed. And obviously, don't not recalling exactly what happened in between, but I found that dynamic. And you alluded to it on the last match with the crowd being super hot for the Matt Hardy return. The crowd was super hot pretty much throughout the entire night. Definitely one of the best crowds I can recall throughout this Mania series. But KP, what did you make of this match between Umaga and Batista?
Yeah, this match was okay. I think it's an interesting dynamic. You got that sort of brand for brand supremacy being the the main sort of focus here in this one, and yeah, it is interesting because obviously you look at Batista in the past WrestleManias, have been those high profile matches. This does feel like a bit of a step down in comparison to that. But taking it for what it was a good match. It was very physical. Batista and Umaga, just two big guys, and I think they just sort of like I guess just matched each other physically in that ring. It seemed to be quite like a battle, in all honesty. But yeah, it was decent enough to be fair. Yeah, we see the match going on quite nicely here. I mean, Batista basically starts off quite well. He's stringing along a few things together. It's like I said, very very physical. Umaga takes over for quite a large part of the matchup as well. Sort of like makes Batista sort of like fight from underneath, sort of thing for a large part of it. And yeah, I think like I said, it's a battle, and that's what this one really felt like. Watching it and just sort of like seeing it take place and unfold. Obviously we see wrestling matches all the time, but this was literally like a heavyweight battle between two men that I think can offer quite a lot. Just generally speaking in matches. But I quite enjoyed it for what it was worth. Batista does get the victory in the end. We see Umaga looking for the Samoan spike, but Batista does manage to stop him, avoiding the offense. Umaga goes crashing into the ring post after attempting a splash in the corner, before Batista then hits a spine buster, follows it up with a Batista bomb, and literally just about gets enough rotation, slamming him down, and that'll be enough to get the victory here in this match on the 1-2-3. But yeah, like I said, it was good, but I wouldn't say this was like an incredible match or anything. It wasn't like a favorite of mine on the night or whatever, but it was just solid enough for what it was. It's two guys just being physical against each other and having a just kind of solid contest. So yeah, I gave it a 7 out of 10. I think it's missing quite a bit to make it like a great match and whatever. But just Raw versus SmackDown to get two guys on the card, I guess didn't really have any creative sort of plans going into this one. I guess it's not too bad. So yeah, I don't mind this one. I enjoyed it for what it was. So yeah, 7 out of 10 is not too bad in my opinion. What did you make of this one, Nick? There isn't really too much to sort of go on. I think I've covered basically the majority of it. But yeah, have you got anything different to add? And what did you make of it, generally speaking?
Yeah, nothing really different. I mean, you have two huge talents here. Should have been, an interesting matchup, even if there wasn't much story. It didn't feel like there was. Just the two big guys going at it was kind of the storyline here. Yeah, this one didn't feel like a Mania match. I'm being completely honest. It something was missing, and I couldn't quite put my finger on it. And it was a little on the shorter side too, so that didn't help it either. Um, yeah, this one just didn't do it for me. Give it a 5 out of 10. Uh, like I said, some matches just don't really feel like they belong on the Mania card for one reason or another, and this one just kind of felt like it was one of those. So yeah, just didn't do it for me, unfortunately. Maybe 5 more minutes and it gives it one of those one of those matches we put in those buckets. We haven't put near as many of those in there lately, but yeah, this one, I think 5 more minutes maybe would have made a big difference. Getting into another match, which I would argue wasn't quite long enough. We have Kane going up against Chavo Guerrero, defending his ECW championship. This one's pretty short, pretty sweet. Kane comes in from behind, Chavo's looking at the entrance ramp. Kane comes in, hits a choke slam, and that's that. We have a new ECW champion. Perhaps this was Vince's way. Maybe he wasn't happy with ECW at the time, and this was his way of sticking it to him by giving him a crap match. I got nothing. But KP, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I'd like to add a lot more, but unfortunately I can't really because it was over in like what 8 seconds or something crazy. So yeah, we see Kane on the sort of dark match before the show begins, winning a battle royal. I think it's like 24 guys in there, and the winner of that one, takes on Chavo Guerrero on the main card. So naturally speaking, you're thinking, oh, okay, well we're gonna have something sort of decent happen later on. And I guess maybe in a sense something decent did happen. We saw a title change, so I guess that's that. But yeah, literally there isn't really much to unpack. It was as you said. So all we see is Kane choke slamming Chavo, and the match is over. So yeah, not really much to sort of digest here and pick apart. But yeah, I really don't really know what to say because that was literally it. So you can't really judge it on was it a wrestling match because it was one move and it was less than 10 seconds, and yeah. Like it puts itself in a very difficult position here, but I mean I have a rating. I gave it a 1 because what more can I possibly give it? It took place, so I guess there's that, and there was a title change from it, so I mean I guess that's a positive. But yeah, what could you do, right? There's nothing you can add, so I'm not going to waste too much time here. That's basically all I got to say. But what I will say, I'll put a personal opinion down, and that it is a bit odd. I think that's completely fair. Maybe it wasn't like you said, something to do with events, not like in what ECW were at the time, possibly. But who knows? That's not for me to to know about. But yeah, do you have anything else to add? I can't possibly imagine you do, but yeah, what do you think?
Nope, nothing else to add. Yeah, and I wish we had some system for these kind of matches where we could just not give them a rating because it obviously heavily brings down the overall rating. But yeah, I don't see how you can give this any more than a 1. There's literally a 1 move, so a point for each move that you see, I guess. We'll go with that. 1 out of 10 for me as well. And let's swiftly move on to the next match, which is a very, very different feel. This, of course, has HBK Shawn Michaels going up against the Nature Boy Ric Flair in a career-threatening match, which essentially, it's strange that they called it that, but essentially, this is Ric Flair retired. You have to retire if you lose. So pretty straightforward in that regard. KP, obviously, this is a very special matchup, a very historic matchup. Everyone knows the moment, the old Yeller reference, and the "I'm sorry, I love you." Can't wait to hear your thoughts on this one.
Where do I begin? Where do I begin? You mentioned everyone sort of knows the moment, and yeah, that's no exaggeration. Literally, I think that super kick, the sweet chin music, it just lives in everybody's heads rent free. The "I'm sorry, I love you" is absolutely iconic as anything that you probably will see in wrestling, and just yeah, generally speaking, it's a massive it feels like a massive fight because it was a massive moment. So mission accomplished in that regard for sure. For Rick's age, I mean, he delivered a pretty good match here. Honestly, it was back and forth. He didn't look like he was struggling whatsoever. Yeah, he looks a bit, out of breath, and he's tiring down. But I mean, the guy was in his like late what? I think it was like he was in his early 50s at this point, wasn't he? If I remember rightly. So he's gonna be quite sort of flustered at some point in the matchup, even quite early on. But even still with that, like I thought they did a good job of delivering a decent contest. The pace was slow, but that's to be expected. It was somewhat technical. Rick put on a really gritty performance. Michaels did a fantastic job of doing what he had to do out there and sort of making Rick shine in this contest as well. And yeah, playing his role in the very defining moment at the end. So I thought Shawn's hesitation in parts was quite well done as well. It's just utterly perfect, really, because he didn't want Ric Flair's career to end, deep down. But obviously it got to a point where sometimes you got to do what you got to do, and in this case he did what he had to do. So playing out towards the remaining moments, Shawn hears a Sweet Chin Music basically out of nothing for the second time in the match that happened, and then we do get that iconic Sweet Chin music that I mentioned moments ago. So he hits that Sweet Chin music and he goes for the cover on Ric Flair to get the win. And immediately after getting the pinfall, sort of like gets off of him and then just jumps back over to him like it's just the head to head sort of the consoling sort of moment between Shawn Michaels and Ric Flair. It just makes for a really amazing moment. So yeah, emotional stuff for sure. Lots of tears in the audience, and obviously Ric Flair being very, very upset about it. But I think we look back and we think this should have been his retirement matchup. Didn't need what else followed, years and years and years to come down the line. But yeah, it was just a well put together match and worked really, really well as well. So I gave this a 1 and 8 out of 10. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and what an iconic moment at the very end as well. We all know and love it, and there's a good reason why. But Nick, what did you make of this one? Generally speaking, the flow of the match, how it sort of went down. Did you enjoy it as much as I've sort of like said that I have? And yeah, generally speaking, what was your overall rating for it as well?
Yeah, so Shawn Michaels was 42 here. Ric Flair was 59. So damn near 60. A combined age of 101 in this career threatening match. And I think that just makes the bout all the more impressive. The definition of in ring storytelling with two of the greatest at in ring psychology. I'm Sorry I Love You is a just synonymous with WWE WrestleMania, and of course these two men with his Rick's kids in the front row crying, Charlotte specifically absolutely bawling, looking exactly like her dad the way he cries. This is one of those moments where I would have given a large amount of money to be there, to say I could have been there for this contest. You alluded to it as well, but I think for a lot of us, this was Ric Flair's last match. It wasn't, but in our head, it was. This is just that riding off into the sunset feel. I think if he does leave here, similar to how we think Cena's going to leave, it would just be like riding off into the sunset, just a perfect way to go about it. Even when the announcers are quiet, which they don't hardly ever stop talking. So the announcers are just quiet, letting Rick soak in the atmosphere, which was great. Obviously, I've alluded to that already as well. Showing their respect, and that's just a moment. This was top notch storytelling, and the in ring action was pretty good as well. This one gets 10 out of 10 for me. The second match of the evening getting a 10 out of 10. Obviously, the first being that Money in the Bank ladder match. Yeah, just some moments are just so big that I can't help but give them a perfect rating, even when the in ring action isn't, what a typical 10 out of 10 match would be. But the storytelling and the in ring psychology was so good that it does get that bump from me. What a moment. So with that, we will move on to the next match, unfortunately, and drop in quality once again. This one has Maria and Ashley going up against Melina and Beth Phoenix, the current WWE Women's Champion. A similar concept here to what we saw last year with the Lumberjacks. They call them this year. Lumberjills, they called them last year. Being outside the ring, finding a way to capitalize on that sex appeal, essentially. Snoop Dogg, for a reason, I guess. JR, or excuse me, King Lawler gets involved here as well. Santino Morello gets involved here. The lights go out during the match. Somehow it becomes the most interesting part of the match. Yeah, KP, thoughts on this one?
Well, first and foremost, I think we can all agree that it was better than the Playboy Bunny match from last year, right? I think that's safe to say. um, but yeah, in terms of this matchup, it wasn't great. It was okay, right? It was fine. It was an okay tag team contest. The Lumberjacks actually did something in the contest this time, which I guess is something. Last year they did nothing until the very end. They just had a random brawl out of nothing. So at least they sort of had them play an effect in the actual contest itself, I suppose, which is something. It's what normally Lumberjacks do when they're on the outside. So I guess there's that. Yeah, there are a few moments where they got involved, and I think the match flowed okay, to be honest. It was a little bit sloppy, and not a great match by any means necessary, but it was certainly better than last year. So I think that's a step in the right direction, I guess you can say. I don't know. Trying to find positives out of somewhere here. But yeah, generally speaking, the match itself, as it's going down, we see Beth Phoenix spearing Melina to the outside, so obviously her tag team partner, again, a bit of a mix-up there. And after that happens, obviously she's on the outside. She's obviously taken out of the action for a little bit. And Maria then hits a diving bulldog onto Beth Phoenix. Maria goes for a cover, but Santina Marella, as you've already mentioned here, does get involved, pulling Maria off of Beth Phoenix. And then we see Jerry Lawler get up out of commentary. He goes over to Santina Marella, hits him with the right hand. And then Beth sort of capitalizes with the sort of time that's spent here, sort of focusing on Jerry Lawler and Santino. And she hits a fisherman suplex, and that'll be enough for her to get the victory for herself and Melina. But yeah, just generally speaking, like this match was okay. It was fine. I don't think it was anything particularly special. I gave this one a 4.5 out of 10. Just honestly, yeah, it could have been so much better. But I think there were some small signs of quality in there, which is something to hold on to. I thought Beth Phoenix was quite refreshing to watch. Melina's obviously very talented in her own right. Obviously, Maria's good as well, and as is Ashley. So yeah, there's a whole lot to take in from this one, but I don't know. I think it's I think they are missed opportunities. It's all about that sex appeal, like you obviously mentioned. So that is a thing that holds them back, because the higher ups want that to be the main priority, unfortunately. What did you make of this one, Nick? Just generally speaking, like it's a weird sort of position for the women to be in, but at least I guess it was better than last year, right?
Better than last year is a factual statement. But when the bar is so low, yeah, definitely better than last year. Uh, Obviously, Beth and Melina, obviously, we know are capable of putting on much better matches. Um, I'm sure, all four women could say the same, as you kind of mentioned as well. But yeah, it's just not the way they were booked quite yet, and felt like we were making some progress a few manias ago. But then, one step forward, two steps back. So we took our two steps back last year. We're taking our one step forward this year. We'll see. I don't think next year is when they start, but I know eventually we'll get to what we know the product is today on the women's side. But for now, we just kind of grin and bear through it. And yeah, for this one, I give it a 4 out of 10. And like we all said, we just know they're capable of better, and that's unfortunately just not kind of the role they're given yet. So, with that, we'll move on to the next match, which has John Cena, who continues to get booted out of the building, similar to that of Batista. I would argue even more so, though. Going up against Triple H and Randy Orton, who is defending his WWE Championship. This match does not lack names, and interestingly enough, not being the actual main event of the evening. So, I would love to find out more from WWE's side on how they decided to go with that match instead of this one. Obviously, you could make a case for either, I'm sure. But regardless, KP, what'd you make of this one?
Possibly a controversial take coming up here. I'll get to that in a moment. This was good. Like it was a good matchup. You got three names in there with the quality that they possess: John Cena, Triple H, Randy Orton, and you expect something probably quite star-studded. Yeah. Something really amazing and incredible. Triple threat match for the WWE Championship as well being on the line. You would expect probably if not the best match of the night, probably up there with, in the top two, maybe perhaps, or whatever, maybe just narrowly being beaten. For me, that's not the case, though. It was good, but I felt like it didn't have a truly special vibe in the match as it was flowing. And like the way it ended as well, like it was a good finish, don't get me wrong, it was fine, there's nothing wrong with it. It was quite nicely done. But just, I don't know, it didn't have that massive sort of moment feeling to it, in my opinion. And it seemed to be missing something. I couldn't tell you what it was, but like it just didn't hit the level that I thought it really probably should have done, which is interesting because I was expecting to really enjoy this matchup, like I said, because of the three names that are involved. It was competitive, it was good, but yeah, just apart from moving along nicely and being, having three big names in it, I just thought it was okay and it was fine. It didn't really do too much for me. Didn't really reinvent the wheel or anything. But just generally speaking, how the match comes to a close here, we have Triple H evading an FU from John Cena. Before then, he hits Cena with a pedigree. And then Triple H goes for a cover, and as he's in the cover, he gets a punt kick to the face by Randy Orton, who then pins John Cena, who just took that pedigree, in order to win the matchup. So the finish was kind of good. I quite liked it, like I said a moment ago. So I don't really have any criticisms for that, but it just seemed fine. Like, it was okay. It was kind of as if they'd like put like the minimal effort into just making this match happen on the card. Irrelevant of build now, just the match itself. And yeah, they just, I don't know. It just really was a weird vibe to it. I can't really put my finger on it and explain exactly why it felt like it did, but something really was missing. And yeah, I guess that's unfortunate. But yeah, decent enough match. It was fine. I gave it a 7.5, which is okay. It was good. It certainly wasn't bad by any means necessary, but I just expected more. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking things. But what did you make of this one, Nick? Do you agree with me? Was there something really missing from this matchup? Did it maybe fall a little bit short in your estimations as well? Or am I maybe missing something and you think it's a lot better than what I'm making out to be?
It's no surprise. No, I do agree with you. I'm assuming it was by default, or done on purpose. I assume they didn't want to outshine what ended up being the actual main event. So perhaps that's why the match was felt a bit short. Felt like it was missing a bit something. It didn't give it their all to make sure they didn't overshine. I think that's certainly a possibility with the three names involved. I'm I've made it clear before that I'm not a huge Cena fan. I'm not a huge Randy Orton fan when it comes to in ring work. His style is just very, very different. It's not really my cup of tea. But Triple H also has a very slow style as well. Not a lot of people like his in ring work either. So I think just the three of them, on paper, doesn't scream it's going to be a great match. But just because of the big names, you would think they would pumped out something a little better. But yeah, outside of the finish, didn't really bring a lot to become super memorable. Kind of the same tune you're saying. So I assume it was by default, and that's kind of that. Like I said, the ending really being the only really interesting part about this, and Randy Orton retaining by getting that punk kick on Triple H, who looked like he had the match won. So that was a bit of a surprise ending there. And the crowd was elated to have Randy Orton win and obviously not see Cena and Triple H, who have had their fair share of big moment wins here on the biggest stage of them all. So, yeah, I gave this one a 7 out of 10. It wasn't as good as I thought it probably should have been. But then again, I didn't know if that was just me. So, yeah, sounds like we're on the same page there. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get on to the next match, which continues the Big Show's quite possibly the strangest mania path. Um, from just the way he started to the matches he's endured, this one being very, very different as well. We have the Big Show going up against Floyd Mayweather. Um, yeah, KP, what did you make of this one? Obviously, a very different feel to it. Um, and I kind of assumed this was going to be another like a minute match, but it did end up getting some time. So curious to get your thoughts on this one, how well you received it.
Yeah, you've already sort of highlighted one of the main points I want to make here. I genuinely thought this one was going to be like a 2 or 3 minute contest, and that was going to be it. We see these sort of like celebrity appearances at WrestleMania, and you think, oh, well, it's normally a case of like they're over before they really do get sort of going. Yeah, this one wasn't like that though. It was a lot longer than I thought it was going to be, so quite interesting in that department. It was an okay match. There were a lot of distractions that actually took away from the actual match itself and just sort of like stopped the pace from flowing. It started off as a cat and mouse game, slowly progresses into a kind of dull contest at times that basically dragged, in my opinion. The crowd gave Mayweather an absolutely brutal amount of heat, which was insane. Like, you could barely hear Lillian Garcia when she was making the announcements, before the start of the matchup, during the entrance. So, obviously the crowd were absolutely detesting Floyd Mayweather. So that was quite cool. We've already mentioned the crowd a couple of times, and this was another perfect opportunity to mention them and bring them up because they were loud for that. To be fair to Floyd, he took some offense in this match, so fair play for that. He took some bumps, and Big Show at points was just manhandling him, which realistically should be happening, right? In a match like this, it should be taking place. So I'm glad they at least did something like that, and they didn't just have like, Floyd just dancing around and, land like a knockout punch on Big Show when he sort of like gets a little bit too cocky or something maybe. So I'm glad that that didn't happen. But yeah, in terms of how the match did play out in the end though, Big Show is fighting off Mayweather's promoters. There's absolutely loads of them on the outside. And one ends up hitting Big Show with a steel chair in the back. Big Show ends up turning around, choke slams the guy before Floyd Mayweather starts hitting Show with some chair shots of his own. Big Show stops him, but gets low blowed by Floyd Mayweather, and then gets knocked down by brass knuckles, which have been passed over from one of his promoters. The blow with the brass knuckles is enough to keep Big Show down, and that would be a knockout victory there for Floyd Mayweather in this matchup. So yeah, it was fine. Like I said, it just dragged a little bit in the middle. Like I didn't really care too much for the sort of, I don't know, middle sort of 6-7 minutes or so. I think they could have done without all of that. It just felt like a little bit nonsensical, to be fair. But yeah, it was fine. Like for a celebrity matchup, I guess it was okay. At least they gave it time, and they sort of put some, realistic parts in there with Big Show having some control in bits. So yeah, that was quite nice. But yeah, I didn't particularly enjoy this one. I gave it a 5 out of 10. It wasn't a match for me. So I think, just generally speaking, in my opinion, I didn't really, I don't know, get the benefit from this one. But maybe some people do like it, so they enjoy it. Especially, for the hate for Floyd Mayweather. But yeah, I don't know. It just wasn't my cup of tea, basically. Nick, what did you make of this one? Was it more to your style of liking? I can't imagine it probably is, but you never know, I suppose. And yeah, what about that crowd? They absolutely hated Floyd, so they let their voices be heard, didn't they?
Yeah, they sure did. And throughout the evening, we've kind of mentioned that as well. But if Big Show is a extremely baby face, something, he's working with someone that's absolutely despised. That is the case here. Yeah, I think he's stuck between a rock and a hard place. If this match goes, 5 seconds, Mayweather comes in, lands a punch, that's that, then we're sitting here shitting on it because it wasn't a wrestling match. But, I think when you kind of do what you do here, playing the kind of cat and mouse game with the interference and whatnot, I suppose that's a bit better. Uh, yeah, but in the end, Mayweather hitting the Big Show, which I think was always going to be the outcome with those brass knuckles. Props to Big Show. He kind of made this work, and Mayweather didn't look terrible. He looked like he kind of had in ring psychology, and both of them kind of sold this one pretty well. So for that, I give it a 5 out of 10. Um, it was better than it should have been. I'll put it that way. This is back when celebrity involvement wasn't good. So we see a celebrity involved in a match, we don't expect it to be good. Whereas today, that bar has kind of shifted a bit. We expect them to put in some work and respect the business. But back then, they came in, they kind of made our wrestlers who worked, did this for a living every day, always made them look a little silly. This was not quite on par with how it used to be. So I gave this one a 5 out of 10. Could have been better, could have been worse though. So we'll take that and we'll run. With that being, picking up that pace of running, we will head to the main event. We have Undertaker going up against KP's favorite, Edge, for the World Heavyweight Championship. It is a shame that Edge, I know he didn't technically lose, but he didn't win his match the year before in that ladder match. So what we could have had, a streak versus streak match here, I think would have been a great. Would have been an opportunity, unfortunately, that WWE missed. But regardless, Edge versus Taker here. KP, what are your thoughts on this one? Where does this rank in terms of Edge's mania, or just your overall kind of top 10 list? Does this one make it for Edge for you?
Top 10? Absolutely. In terms of his WrestleMania matches, 100%. Yeah, this one was quality. Really, really solid. It was a very physical matchup, and just generally speaking, just felt like a massive fight. There's so much history between these two guys in the past year going into this one. They did a really nice video package that sort of like summed it all up, and there were so many references on commentary throughout the matchup that sort of, made these sort of spots throughout the matchup really get brought into life, which was quite nice to see. So if you didn't really follow the feud, during the time, or don't know much about it, then they do help out quite a lot in that sense. So that was quite nice. Obviously being Edge, being a massive Edge head myself, and being a massive fan of his, very aware of this feud with Undertaker. It was one of his better ones, in my opinion. But yeah, just generally speaking, from Edge, especially in this matchup, a very tactical approach. Just approaches it very well. Counter after counter after counter from the Rated R Superstar, and just makes it very difficult for Undertaker to do what he wants to do in the matchup. You can see the frustration building in Taker throughout the early to mid stages, and it makes for a nice, compelling contest. We sort of like see later on Undertaker getting into the equation. He hits a choke slam on Edge, which Edge kicks out of. We see Undertaker hit a last ride, which again, Edge kicks out of. And then eventually he does hit a tombstone power driver, and the referee is taken down at this point, so it's a little bit of a helping hand for Edge. So, you could use that as a advantage to him. And then we see the iconic run of Charles Robinson coming down the ramp. That was, I think everyone's sort of seen at least once or 100 times in their lives. So yeah, that he comes down, and Edge then kicks out of that tombstone power driver, although there was a bit of a gap in between. So yeah, Edge was definitely sort of like fighting through from like these moments, which was pretty cool. And yeah, there were some nice spots throughout the matchup as well. Like we see Edge hitting Undertaker with a camera, which sort of goes back to their SummerSlam sort of thing with the camera from Edge being in there as well. So that was a nice little throwback to that particular matchup. And yeah, there's just so much to really take in for this match. But towards the end of it, we do see Edge hitting a second spear, is unable to capitalize though, gets caught in the Hell's Gates immediately after hitting the spear. And after a little bit of a struggle, we do see Edge tapping out to the Hell's Gates in order to give Undertaker the win and winning the World Heavyweight Championship. But yeah, it was a solid contest. Probably one of Undertaker's best WrestleMania matches as well. Was it the best match of the night? No, I don't think it was quite. I do think that the Money in the Bank ladder match was my match of the night, personally speaking. But this was a very close second. I gave it a 9 out of 10. Just ridiculously good. Just generally speaking, just the way these two just flow together. And I know you're normally the one to say these facts, but Undertaker did actually pitch to have Edge win this matchup, but Edge refused, saying that he didn't want to be the one to break Undertaker's streak. So just in case you're going to be prep on that one, gotta let me have this one, right? Considering his Edge. But yeah, just what a guy. Can't fault him. 9 out of 10 for me. Really, really solid. Great main event. Had a main event feel as well, and the flow just was really nice too in that respect. But yeah, what did you make of this one, Nick? I'm done glazing for the time being. But yeah, in terms of your opinions, your thoughts, what did you make of this WrestleMania main event for the World Heavyweight Championship?
No, I'm glad you took some time. You certainly know who I love most and who I dislike most. I make that quite apparent. So I'm happy for you to have your glazing session there. Um, yeah, I did not know that Edge had pitched the idea, or excuse me, Taker had pitched the idea, but Edge declined. Props of a class act there. I know Angle was also pitched to break the streak as well, but these guys to have enough realization to know that the streak is bigger than the moment. And I only wish some other guys would have been able to come to that realization as well. But um, yeah, it's a shame. It's this was a great contest. I think Edge really has Taker's number throughout this match, and so you could definitely see where they could have made that into Taker's first loss. Um, and this was the first time Taker had main evented in 11 years. The last time he main evented was against Psycho Sid, so just showing you how big of a gap that was. Commentary team really hit on this throughout that Edge had, had Taker's numbers, and Edge was consistently reversing Taker's best shots. Edge getting kicked out of a chokeslam, a last ride, and a tombstone is pretty impressive in its own right. I think Edge was already solidified to this point, but I think if there were any doubters, I think this match kind of solidified his main event status. Yeah, the bit where he does kick out of the tombstone, as you kind of mentioned, it was a pretty big gap. It reminded me of that Triple H Booker T bit where Triple H didn't cover Booker T for like 30 seconds, but still got the win. If only we could have used this logic here towards that match. But getting back to this match, yes, the iconic running down the gate Charles Robinson is all time. Obviously, he worked the Ric Flair Shawn Michaels match, so man got paid overtime tonight. But yeah, it legitimately did look like. Obviously, we all know the streak wasn't going to be ended. But had I been there, in real time, I would have thought that this was the match. Taker desperately locking in that Hell's Gate is a last ditch effort, and Edge has no choice but to tap. And your new world heavyweight champion as the streak continues from 15-0 to 16-0. This was just a great match, especially those last 10 minutes really picked up the pace. And just some good some good in ring psychology here as well, and some good in ring work to boot. I gave this match a 9 out of 10. Like I said, there were two other matches on this card. I gave a perfect rating, but any other Mania, I think this would be on the top three. But yeah, a really great contest, and definitely one of the better Taker matches. We referred to his streak all the time, a lot of them being duds. This was obviously not one of those cases. So, with that, WrestleMania 24 in the books. KP, hit us with your highlights and your overall rating, and we'll get this one wrapped up.
Yeah, solid show. Really enjoyed this one. Generally speaking, from start to finish. Immediately, the second I started watching the coverage and the run through, noticed that it was HD, and I literally couldn't not notice that. Like, it was just a breath of fresh air. It was nice. Obviously, we've watched the first 23 being in the definitions that we've obviously seen up until this point. Gradually improving as time's gone on, but no like massive differences. This one was the first huge change. You notice it literally in like the first couple of seconds. So yeah, that was really great to see. And then yeah, generally speaking, the matches themselves, they just came in some really nice flows, to be fair, especially the Money in the Bank ladder match being my match of the night, and then obviously the main event with Undertaker and Edge just absolutely killing it. The iconic moment of Ric Flair and Shawn Michaels with the sweet chin music. Yeah, there's a few moments to really take in from this WrestleMania, and it's quite an enjoyable one for sure. There are some low points, which standardly that comes with every WrestleMania, and I'm looking at you, Kane and Chavo, with that 8 second or whatever it was matchup. That 1 out of 10 pesky rating does drag down the rating for this WrestleMania, which is unfortunate because as a overall, my average of matches comes to a 6.5 altogether for the show, which does seem maybe a little low, and that's the same as 23, which in retrospect is criminal, but apparently that's how this works. So, anyway, can't really dispute the my own logic apparently, I guess. But yeah, I just really had fun with this WrestleMania. There were some great moments, and HD era is now upon us, and we can obviously go into the bit more modern WrestleManias coming up next. So 25 is the next one for us. Looking forward to that one. Yeah, we're starting to get close to where I started watching live, but we're not quite there yet. Almost. What did you make of this one, Nick? Generally speaking, 24 as a whole, your highs, your lows, and yeah, your match of the night and everything that took place.
Yeah, we like I said earlier, we should have found a way to avoid those matches that really drag down the rating, because my overall rating was a 6.5, which is better than that of last year's. But I really did not enjoy 23. I kind of said it on the last episode. It was one of the worst, probably in like 10 years, mania wise, that I just didn't enjoy at all. This one was a night and day different, but the overall rating was only a 6.5. Well, that's because you had a 1 out of 10 match, and that of Kane and Chavo. You take out that match, all of a sudden it's a 7. It doesn't sound like a lot, but a 6.5 and a 7 is a big difference when you only have this many matches. So it kind of works both ways, unfortunately. I think we can all agree, though, that 24 was better than 23. The highs being much higher, and the lows, still being present, but at least being more tolerable outside of the Kane and Chavo match. Highlights for me, yeah, Money in the Bank. Obviously, I gave it 10 out of 10, and Shawn Michaels, I gave it 10 out of 10, and Ric Flair. So I would give the slight edge to Shawn Michaels and Ric Flair just because it's a moment you can't ever kind of duplicate. So yeah, with that, I think that is my match of the night. Obviously, the Taker Edge match was great as well. But yeah, three quality matches, all pushing that near perfect rating. So can't really fault it there. And the crowd, obviously, the crowd is such a big. We hit on that, from time to time, but the crowd really can make or break a mania. And in this instance, I really do feel like they help make everything that much better. So, with that, WrestleMania 24 in the books. What was your favorite Mania moment? Please do let us know in the comments below. In any bad booking decisions they made. Let us know what you're thinking here. And comparatively speaking, where does this Mania rank in your grand ranking? I can't wait until eventually we get through all of these manias and can put out a nice little video ranking every single mania. But until then, we obviously will work on 25 next. And we have the Saturday Night Main Event last Cena match coming up this weekend. So staying busy over here at the push, along with the weekly recaps as well. But don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button here if you like what we're putting out here. That helps us out tremendously. But until next time, this has been The Push with Nick and KP. We'll see you soon. Take care.